When the Wars of the Roses ended in 1485, Henry VII became the first Tudor King of England. He created a new family emblem with the Tudor rose by combining the red rose of Lancaster with the white rose of York. The symbol can still be seen in churches and castles across England. Henry VII introduced high taxes and banned nobles from raising their own armies. However, he had to face several Yorkist plots against him, often helped by the kings of Scotland or the Irish. During his reign, Erasmus of Rotterdam brought the humanism of the Renaissance to the University of Oxford and Cambridge, while the scholar Sir Thomas More, the author of Utopia, moved England closer to North European thought and the origins of Protestantism. Henry VII's foreign policy was very diplomatic. He married his son and heir to the Aragonese heiress Catherine and two of his daughters equally well to the kings of France and Scotland. When he died in 1509, he left England economically stable and at peace with France and Scotland. Henry VIII succeeded his father at the age of 18. He was good-looking and skilled at sport, music and poetry. He married his brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon. Henry VIII was interested in theology, and when Martin Luther nailed his anti-Catholic thesis to the door of Wittenberg Castle Church in 1517, Henry wrote an attack on Luther, which won him the title of Defender of the Faith from the Pope. Henry also increased the navy from 5 to about 40 ships. However, things changed when Henry asked the Pope to declare his first marriage invalid, as Catherine had given him a daughter, Mary, but failed to deliver a male heir. The Pope refused, so the king broke with Rome, divorced Catherine, and in 1533 married a pregnant Anne Boleyn, who gave birth to a girl, Elizabeth. With the Act of Supremacy in 1534, Henry was declared the supreme head of the Church of England, and it became treason to deny it. Henry's religious revolution was extended to Wales and Ireland. Temporal and religious powers were thus joined in the figure of the monarch. Thomas Cromwell, the king's counsellor, suppressed 400 small monasteries and confiscated their lands and money. Anne Boleyn was imprisoned on charges of treason and executed in 1536. The king then married Jane Seymour, who gave him a son, finally Edward, but died in childbirth. Henry had 3 more wives. The sixth one, Catherine Parr, had a great intellectual influence on Prince Edward and Princess Elizabeth, whose education she supervised. Edward VI was only 9 years old when his father died. So his father was Henry the Eighth. He was precocious, studying history and Protestant theology. During Edward's reign, as a consequence of the Protestant Reformation, religious services were held in English instead of Latin, and the Book of Common Prayer, mainly prepared by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, became compulsory with the Act of Uniformity. This helped develop of the English language. In 1553, the young king died from consumption. Before dying, he had named his Protestant cousin, Lady Jane Grey, as his successor, but after 9 days and still uncrowned, she was taken prisoner to the Tower of London thanks to a Catholic plot. Then Mary I, known as Bloody Mary, Henry VIII's daughter, by his first wife, declared herself queen and wanted to restore Catholicism in England. In 1554, she married Philip II of Spain, and this made England an ally of Spain against France. Mary's Counter-Reformation brought the restoration of Catholic rituals and heresy laws. The Queen had the name Bloody Mary, giving the Protestant Church about 300 martyrs by burning them at the stake. In 1558, she fell ill and left the throne to her sister Elizabeth. Elizabeth I's reign is often considered England's golden age. It was an age of stability, religious toleration, and victory at the sea. It was the time of entertainment and the rising star of Shakespeare. Elizabeth came to the throne at the age of 25. She was clever and determined. She consolidated the Reformation in 1559 by reintroducing the Acts of Supremacy and Uniformity. Church doctrine was Protestant and culminated in the third 9 Articles of Anglican faith in 1562. However, Elizabeth allowed tolerance as regarded ornament in churches and ceremonies. She received many proposals, but regarded marriage as dangerous. She thought that a foreign husband would subject England to overseas rule, while an English one would create factions and plots. When Parliament pressed her to marry and produce an heir, she replied that she would rule and die a virgin. This is why she was called the Virgin Queen. Elizabeth took regular tours around the country, known as royal progressives, to show her person and the power of her office. She and her court received hospitality from her richest subjects, who regarded her visits as a privilege. Several official portraits of the Queen were painted as part of royal propaganda, displaying the symbols of her power and showing her as a representation of unity and peace. Mary, Queen of Scots, returned to Edinburgh from France when her husband, the King of France, died in 1560. She was the great-granddaughter of Henry VII and had a claim to the English throne. She married the Stuart Lord Darnley and had a son, James. When her court forced her to abdicate in favour of her son, she went to England, hoping to receive help from her cousin Elizabeth. However, she was arrested and kept prisoner in Sheffield Castle, where she became the centre of conspiracies against Queen Elizabeth. Mary was eventually executed for treason in 1587. Elizabeth encouraged her sea captains to explore new lands and look for treasure. Sir Francis Drake, the first Englishman to circumnavigate the world, combined royal authority for exploration with piracy, seizing the gold carried by Spanish ships. In 1586, Spain was preparing an armada to invade Britain. Philip II of Spain wanted to bring England once again under the rule of the Church of Rome. The Spanish Armada set sail in 1588. It was the most serious naval attack on England since the Vikings, with about 130 ships. The English ships, however, were faster and better armed than the Spanish ones. Therefore, they were able to scatter part of the Armada and get close enough to attack with their cannons. The Armada escaped to the North Sea, damaged and hit by storms. The Spanish lost a third of their fleet and many men died. The outcome of the failed invasion confirmed England's supremacy at sea. Elizabeth died in 1603, saying that the Protestant King of Scotland, James, son of Mary, Queen of Scots, should succeed her. She had enjoyed her people's love and consent. She had managed to create a popular and majestic image of a sovereign who appeared as the defender of the nation and the preserver of peace. She had brought England unity and glory. Elizabeth I was perhaps the first monarch to understand the importance of public relations, and she carefully prepared her image for public use. There is little warmth in any of her portraits, but there is much majesty. Her pale face, reddish gold hair, dark brown eyes, a hooked nose, rather thin lips and pronounced cheekbones are common to all her portraits. However, every painter has captured a slightly different image of the Queen. She may well have had freckles on her pale skin, but like all Elizabethan ladies, she used to avoid the sun on her face, and the makeup she wore for most of her life, used to protect her delicate skin from the sun. White skin was fashionable in Tudor times, as it was what distinguishes the rich from the poor. Painters also used symbolic image to present Elizabeth I to her subject as the Virgin Queen. A symbolic bestiary was associated with the Queen. For example, the phoenix, an image of virginity, also symbolized her uniqueness, whereas the pelican stood for her total devotion to her people. Elizabeth was portrayed holding the emblems of the microcosm and macrocosm, such as the globe of the earth or the heavens, and symbols of her majesty like the olive branch.